All right, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, which means we gotta wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs. Before we go ahead and get started, we gotta make sure these tubes are working and connected all across the webs. It looks like we're okay on YouTube, on Rumble, on Locals, and on Telegram. That's tremendous news, my friends. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about those Trump seizures taking place in New York. Tish, we're not talking about the facial seizures, the spasms that she used to have. Remember when she was running for office, she would say illegitimate president, like almost seize out in her face because she is so TDS'd out. But she apparently is getting very, very close to seizing some property because the Trump deadline is just a short time away on Monday and the gears are in motion. So CNN is saying she's got the rods in the fire, taking steps to seize some of the Trump properties. And CNN's got some details on this, so we'll read through it. They've got some of the inside filings, and we'll see what they say about it. But as we've been talking about here, I think they're in a little bit over their skis on this one. I think that if they actually go ahead with this, and we have the visuals, as we've been saying here, you know, put the padlock on the front door of Trump Tower in New York, or put the caution tape around one of these buildings, see how it goes for them, see how Americans feel about that. Not only in New York, but everywhere else in this country, when we see little communist, useless AGs who are taking people's property away from them. See how that works out for them at the polls. And then, lo and behold, Frank Luntz came out and he said the same thing. He says, you know, if you guys do this stuff, it is going to backfire because it is un-American through and through. It's the seizure of private property. People work their whole lives to have their property. And people don't, I think have a tough time understanding what, $1.2 trillion means when our government just dumps that out of their butts. But they understand what it's like when your building gets taken from you. It's very clear. You can see it. It's tangible. So it's going to have, I think, a big repercussion for them. And Jimmy Kimmel proves this point. He's out, I think, on the wrong side of this issue like he is on every issue. But he is kind of, gloating, really kind of rubbing Trump's nose in it, saying, yeah, maybe we'll take his property. Maybe he can go stay at a motel or whatever a stupid joke's going to be. But that's the point, right? People are not going to like it when you start seizing property from citizens because they start asking themselves, well, what happens when I'm next? Trump had a lot to say about this. He was posting up a storm on True Social and talking about Judge Angeron, Areola, and Tish James. So we'll see what he says. We got a bunch there. We also have reaction from Newt Gingrich that calls this financial assassination. And Trump is going to tell us that essentially Angeron knew that he had $500 million in his campaign coffers. And so that's what he made the bill. He's like, what can I do to hurt Trump the most? I don't know. How much money does he have in his bank account? Oh, $500 million? Cool. That's what the penalty is. That's what we're going to be taking from you. So that's Trump's point. And Newt is explaining here that this is financial assassination, right? They're just trying to take him out every which way. And we've already seen this, right? There are many different avenues of attack, different attack vectors, obviously for criminal cases, ballot removal cases. In our second segment, I think that they're still going to try to take him off this ballot, and we're just like 3 congressmen away from it. So we'll talk about that. But clearly, character assassination, political assassination, hopefully not the real kind of assassination, even though that's what James Carville was talking about. We talked about that this morning on our members only stream. He's saying that someone else should do the wet works of Joe Biden. Like, what? All right. So we've got that from Newt Gingrich. Kevin O'Leary also concerned about the long-term impact of all this. What's going to be happening when people realize their entire buildings can be seized from them, and reaction from some people in power who might have something to do about this. But New York GOP House Representative, his name is Lawler, he's upset about this. He says, there should be a right to appeal, and you can't just take people's buildings away from them. And the Attorney General from Missouri saying the same thing, saying this is not becoming of an Attorney General. This is a political partisan hackery, and there should be something done about it. So we'll listen to them. and go through what's happening there in New York. We'll wake up on Monday and we'll see if, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., if they don't have the bond, right, is she going to go and lock up the tower? We'll see. So, all right, that's Tish, and we'll go into that one. Then in our second segment, we've got, I think, what is a continual plot to remove Trump from the presidency. And I want to get your thoughts on that. I think it's kind of a long shot for them to do this, but I do think it would be a valid maneuver. So I'm sure there are some people on their side thinking about it, and I want to make sure we're talking about it. But basically, long story short, is we saw today that Gallagher is leaving. So he's resigning, and, it's okay, fine. You don't want to run again. That's fine. No problem. I don't have a problem with Congress people leaving. My question is, why are they leaving right now? Why are they all leaving right now in the run up to the election? Why? Well, I think because if the Democrats can take control of the House, whether they have the majority or whether some Republicans defect and give Hakeem Jeffries the gavel, either way, we're just a short 5 steps away from not having Trump on the ballot. And I think this is, I think somebody can correct me on this, but I think this is plausible. Dems retake the House. They pass legislation, step 2, declaring that Trump's an insurrectionist. Boom, goes right over to the Senate. Also Democrats, they pass that. Biden signs this into law. It's a resolution, it's a bill, whatever it is. And then boom, Trump is removed from the ballot. And that's justified under the Anderson decision, which is what just came out from SCOTUS 9-0, right? They say Congress prescribes how the determinations are made on how to enforce the insurrection clause. So they didn't really give us a lot of details on how this works. But if they defer it over to Congress, we are like 3 Congress people away from that happening. Okay. And that would happen lickety split if that does happen. So, and Gallagher leaving just closes that margin. So we'll talk about that. I actually have the numbers broken down. So Axios has the numbers for us. We'll read. No, that's not, we're not talking about impeachment, right? We're talking about just passing a resolution. So I don't know what the resolution is, right? I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not impeachment. So it's not a 2/3 standard in the Senate. So that's what my concern is, right? They can just pass the resolution. It's not like impeachment because it's just resolution. It's just here, right? It says the appropriate legislation subject to judicial review, but to pass the appropriate legislation to enforce the 14th Amendment. What the heck does that mean? What is the appropriate legislation? Cast upon Congress the responsibility of seeing to it. Now, they could remove this by 2/3, right? Let's get these gears rolling, because when we get to this segment, I want to know why I'm wrong, why I'm dead wrong about this. But so they could just pass legislation, then by 2/3 vote, they could overcome that based on the insurrection clause, but it's not impeachment, so it's got to be 2/3 of the Senate. I think it's just appropriate legislation, whatever the heck that means. So let's be clear about that. Anyway, so thank you for some of the, I see some of the comments. So we'll get into that. Anyways, we've got some of the numbers from Axios. Gallagher's leaving. He's leaving very soon. So he's not even waiting. He's just running. And today there was a bunch of shenanigans happening in the House, including $1.2 trillion that everybody is going to be paying for very soon. Clay Higgins is, saying that we got to keep Mike Johnson because we are on the precipice here. We've got just one Mike Johnson away from the floodgates of opening, and the Democrats seizing total control and wrecking the country at an even faster pace. So we'll see what he said. And Marjorie is saying, that motion to vacate Mike Johnson that we were hearing about is really just symbolic. That's really probably not going to be happening. And so I think I have the right story on that one. But that's what we've got queued up on the day, my friends. It was a little bit of a slow day in the courts. We didn't have a ton of filings. The filings we did have were, not too consequential or of too much interest. But we had a great stream this morning talking about all of the morning activities, and we were poking around various stories, talking about the border and the attack that took place there in Texas and really how incompetent our president is. But we do streams in the morning for our members. You can join on YouTube or join us on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Linked in the description is where you can find us. We also do streams on Saturday, so we'll see you tomorrow if you are a member, and we'd love to have you. It's a great way to support the show, meet other people out there, and join an amazing community. Loneliness is like one of the most serious causes of health problems these days. Join a community. our locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And I'm not joking about that, actually. So come and join us. RobertGouveia.com if you want to get any PDFs that we have here or sign up for our newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out every night after the show, and it is going to head your direction if you sign up for it at RobertGouveia.com. And of course, WatcherLodge.com, which is where we have our Living with Meaning and Purpose Masterclass facilitated by my mama, Mama G. It's great. You should go check it out. I'm getting some really good feedback on that. She's getting emails from you guys, and she says that, she loves you, basically. So long story short. So check it out, WatcherLodge.com. And I know she's working with some of you as well. So it's going to be great. So check it out, WatcherLodge.com. It's free. It's 2 hours. There's PDFs. There's a lot of other good stuff out there. We all need meaning and purpose, and we could all refine it regularly. But okay, so let's get into it because we've got some business to attend to. Tish James is gearing up to seize property from Donald Trump, and we think this is going to backfire. Been saying this for some time. Let's see how she runs a golf course or a building. What if she wraps a big chain around Trump Tower, puts a padlock on that, and everyone who shows up to work goes, what? We got to check in with Tish now? It's not going to go so well for them. And Americans and people in general, I think, have a difficulty understanding what $500 million means, right? It's just big numbers. We hear these all the time, and it's hard to wrap your head around it. But when the building gets seized and when there's cops saying that you can't go in there, that's a different feel because everybody knows what property is. We all work very hard to obtain property. It's still part of the American dream to own your home. And so now when some big Tish comes in and steals it from you, that, of course, is a concern. Now, CNN is saying that on the heels of the court deadline, Trump still has not posted this $500 million bond, and that Tish is taking some steps to seize this, right? Filing different provisions all over New York to get ready to pounce. So we'll see what they say. But it's not just us who say this whole thing is really boneheaded. I almost kind of hope they do it. I kind of am hoping Trump here just says, all right, let's play. You want to play a game of chicken? Let's go, Tish. See how you do here, because it's not going to work out well for them. And Frank Luntz agrees with us. Frank Luntz says this will backfire and this will guarantee Trump's election. And everybody over there on this panel is like, gulp. They're not too happy about that. And I think Kimmel proves this point. He's explaining that they're salivating over the seizure of this property. Trump reacts, a lot of other reaction from other people. And so let's see what CNN has for us about what is happening there in New York. You see this one posted on Friday, just a short time away from the deadline, says Tish is taking the initial steps to prepare to seize Trump's assets. Okay, Tish. You're playing with fire here. The New York Attorney General's office has filed judgments in Westchester County, the first indication that the state is preparing to try to seize Trump's golf course and his private estate north of Manhattan. We knew this yesterday. Now, state lawyers entered the judgments with the clerk's office in Westchester County back on March 6, right? Just 1 week after Engoron made official his decision. So Tish has been plotting this for quite some time. The decision against Trump and the difficulty that Trump has been having in securing bond, they say strikes at his image as a billionaire. I don't think so. I think anybody would, even if you are a billionaire, you're like, you don't have 500 million just sitting around liquid in cash. Now, entering a judgment from Tish would be the first step that a creditor would take to attempt to recover property. Additional steps like putting liens on the assets or moving to foreclosure or taking other actions might also come down. Now, the judgment is already entered in New York City, where Trump's properties, including Trump Tower, his penthouse at Trump Tower, 40 Wall Street, his hotel abutting Central Park, and numerous apartment buildings are located. And so that's the theory. Okay, which one is Tish going to take? And let's see how she does running apartment buildings. Now, judgments have not been entered in Florida counties, so including Miami or Palm Beach, where the Mar-a-Lago property, I don't think they want to go down to Florida. I don't know if they're going to play this stupid game, but New York certainly will, right? Like the New York courts will just buckle over for Tish. She's the state AG. So the Doral Golf Club, located in Cook County, Illinois, also doesn't have a judgment. Says where Trump's hotel in Chicago is located, and CNN is reviewing all these records. So Trump now has 4 days to satisfy this judgment or get the appeals court to allow him to post a smaller amount. or to defer posting any payment until after the appeal. And the idea, again, we talk about this concept called due process of law. We have to talk about, there's two components or two types of due process we talk about in the law: substantive due process and procedural due process. So substantive is kind of about the substance of the law. What type of due process, or what does the law say? What is the law applying to? Is that implicating one of your rights? And then the procedure is sort of, how is the process happening? Not so much about the law as being applied, but it's about the process of a valid law. So here, what happens if you appeal, but you can't afford your appeal? Do you really have the right to an appeal? No. So that's this question that we're getting into, and we're going to hear from the congressman from New York later. So the AG's office will be allowed to file a written response to Trump's claims. Trump said, not possible. Bonding companies just don't do this. Here's one of the properties. Nice, beautiful area. And it'd be very cool to see Tish there with a big chain and some caution tape wrapped around the whole building, and the people who reside there, the people who work there, being kept out by armed cops, right? Trump showing up and being kept out by armed cops from his own property because Tish has seized it. How'd that go down? So the process to seize the assets would not be quick or easy. And we're going to read from Trump's posts on Truth Social, and I kind of get the vibe that he's goading her a little bit. He's like, okay, come and take it, Tish. You want your half a bill? Come and take it. Put your shoes on and come on over and take it. All right. Don't stink up the place. So Trump has structured his business by setting up LLC companies for nearly every property or asset, over 300 in total. Smart. Ultimately are controlled by his trust. And there have been some great questions that have popped up here about, well, what if Trump just grants all of this to Barron? Or what if he, passes this off to Melania? What happens then? Obviously, that would be, convenient if you could do that, but that would be a fraudulent conveyance, and they would then go after him for fraud, really, and seize more than that. So they are complexly organized, and he is not on paper the owner. Yeah, and therefore, a judgment against him would not be executable directly against certain properties. Sorting this out is not going to be simple. It's not going to be quick. And this is why entrepreneurs, business owners layer themselves in LLCs. We want to protect ourselves from claims, literally. It's like limited liability, right? You're not as liable personally. And it's a nice feature of American capitalism and our economic structure here is that we give people the opportunity to create these corporate structures, these corporate vessels, so that they are not personally liable, that it enables people to take more risk and do more things. But so this is, very, very common to layer your stuff in LLCs. So Trump's, he's like, not, I am the owner, it's LLCs. So if the judgment is against him and not that particular LLC, what's Tish going to do? They are complexly organized, said Nico Passis, a professor of criminology at Northeastern. So in the meantime, she could obtain bank levies and go after the bank assets. She could put liens on the properties. There are all kinds of things she's going to be able to do in an effort to collect, and we'll see what that looks like. Now, all this is completely undermining the brand, says this guy, which he uses for the most part, making the money all around the world. I don't know about that. We're going to hear from Frank Luntz. I think that the brand, a brand that's under attack by the federal government is pretty resilient. It stands out, that's for sure. And I don't know that people hold it against the brand. Now, some weirdos right on the left they still believe the Justice Department is about justice. Like 8-year-olds. Okay, I'm sure like the Center for Disease Control, right? They do the same thing. They control diseases. Okay, hilarious. So, all right. So all this is done to completely undermine the brand. I totally disagree with that. I think the brand's going to come out stronger than ever because it's seen as illegitimate, a lot of this. So all of it. Trump's attorneys push back on the bond ideas. So separately, Trump's lawyers pushed back yesterday on several of the suggestions that they made about how he can pay bond. So they said, well, Trump can just get several bond writers. They just go get all the bond writers. And Trump, we would still have to post $500 million in cash or stock, but he's, they say it's money that he doesn't have. Trump's legal team, and let's mince words on this for sure, because money that he doesn't have, right? We're gonna get into this in a minute. Trump responds, and it's like, well, technically I do have it, but it's not for you, right? We're gonna get into that. I got $500 million, but that's earmarked for the campaign. Engoron knows that. He wants to take that money for his rigged prosecution so they can hold that in escrow pending appeal. Trump will probably get a lot of that back, if not all of it, once this is thrown out. But it's held in abeyance pending the election. So he can't use it. It's not liquid and material to the case, to the election, 2024. Kind of need that money. So Trump, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it for you, Tish. That's the distinction. It's not for Areola Engoron and New York's coffers. It's for the 2024 campaign. That's what we're using it for. So Trump's legal team argued in the filing that the New York Attorney General's office shouldn't be able to challenge their claims. If no arrangement is met, Tish said that she's going to take steps to seize assets. We'll see. Office said this week that it's common for large companies to post billion-dollar bonds, and Trump should have posted his real estate. Trump's team responded. They said the suggestion is both impractical and unjust. AG Tish cites no New York case law to support this contention. And in any event, from the perspective of risk, the AG's proposal of, quote, a court-appointed officer to, quote, hold real estate is functionally equivalent to what the Supreme Court has already imposed through the requirement of a court-appointed monitor to oversee the business. So Tish doesn't even know what she's asking for. Trump's lawyers also said that if they're forced to sell properties at a fire sale, that's going to be irreparable injury. We can't later recover the property if we win on appeal. So you are harming us by appealing. And by demanding an undertaking in the full amount, Tish and Engoron Areola have sought to impose patently unreasonable, unjust, and unconstitutional bond conditions. Now, the monitor, the judge also, right, in another filing, expanded the role of the monitor. So that woman also made millions of dollars just, overlooking Trump's spreadsheets or whatever. Engoron also ordered that the organization to supply Trump organization to supply detailed information back over to the monitor. Engoron laid out a timeline in 2 months, the judge said. The monitor is ordered to submit a report. So now Trump has a hall monitor on his business indefinitely, right? She's made millions. He also put the Trumps on notice. He may order them to implement the monitor's recommendations. It's like we're living in a communist insanityville. Engoron also empowered the monitor to have copies of Trump's monthly bank and brokerage statements to be notified in advance of any transfers of money or dissolution or any other things about debt financing. Notify us about anything that you're moving around. So that's Engoron. That is Tish. She's getting very, very close to seizing this property, or who knows, right? Maybe any of the other properties. This is just the one that we have been seeing pictures of and hearing about. She said that she was salivating over that property called Trump Tower, and we should see her take that one nice and publicly, put a big fat padlock right on the front door. See how that goes for them. So the reason why this is going to backfire, we're going to hear from Luntz here in a second, is because people like Kimmel, they're out here mocking this. And I think their side really has not much else to live for. They kind of just salivate off the pain and suffering of other people's. So when you're that type of person, you like this type of comedy where other people are being, dragged through the ringer, because if they're bad, that makes you feel good. That's the type of person they are. So they like Jimmy Kimmel. Here's what his so-called comedy routine sounded like, where they're talking about communists seizing property from Americans.
His Majesty Donald Trump has some money problems. The I can't pay my billionaire.
Sorry about that volume.
Said to be frustrated, he's having so much trouble coming up with a $464 million bond to cover the judgment against him in New York. Bond companies thus far have been reluctant to loan him that much money for the same reason you wouldn't loan a watermelon to a hippopotamus.
Funny.
Trump has until Monday to get the bond, and if he doesn't, the Attorney General may start seizing his assets, possibly as early as next week.
Go get it.
They could seize his golf course at Bedminster.
Go get it.
They could take his buildings, which if they seize Trump Tower, where will Donald get his authentic Mexican taco bowls? They could even seize his plane. I vote for that. I can think of nothing more delightful.
Seize his plane.
The sight of Donald Trump standing in line for a Southwest flight in boarding group C. I mean, Some experts think Trump ultimately will get the bond, but these companies are leaving him hanging so they can squeeze him for the maximum amount. Basically, they have him over a barrel, and now they're behind him like Stormy Daniels with a rolled-up magazine. Like, have you been a bad boy, Donald? Do you want a bond? Do you want bondage? Because say it. Say I'm a bad boy. Say I'm... Sorry, I got carried away. But
you did get carried away, Jimmy, you weird freak show. Yeah, you did get carried away. So it's weird, right? They're kind of, I think, cheering on the state seizing property from other people in this country. They're like little dumb seals clapping away back there. Or maybe it's a laugh track. I mean, I don't even know if anybody thinks that's funny, unless you're just kind of a grotesque person and you like to laugh at your dictatorial government stealing property from anybody. And again, like, you know, as much as I disdain Joe Biden, I'm not like, go seize his buildings, you know, rah! Like, what the heck? Like, just get him out of office and he can get the hell out of our lives. You know, not that, not let's go wreck their entire heart and soul. So that's Kimmel, right? And these people exist in America, unfortunately. But if they continue on with this, I think they're going to bite off more than they can chew. I think the seizure conversation is going to backfire, which is why I hope they do it. And we've been saying this here for a little bit, that go ahead. You want to play this game? How about Trump just calls your bluff? You're not going to get the 450 million. Go take a building, see how this works out for you. So Frank Luntz was on with CNN, and here is what he said about this when asked what this will do for the election if Tish barricades the front door to Trump's buildings.
All right, Frank, the politics of this. Folks in the Biden campaign are already starting to refer to Donald Trump as broke Don, which is interesting. And then there is the possibility that the New York Attorney General, Tish James, would have to start or would start seizing assets, maybe even buildings. How do you think that would play?
I want you to remember this moment.
Tell us, Frank.
And don't forget it. If the New York Attorney General...
We said this like 3 days ago, by the way.
...starts to take his homes away, starts to seize his assets, it's all going to be on camera. Pundits are going to sit there and scream about this. This man cannot be elected. You're going to create the greatest victimhood of 2024, and you're going to elect Donald Trump. If they take his stuff, he's going to say that this is proof that the federal government and the establishment and the swamp in Washington and all the politicians across the country and the attorneys generals and all of this, that this is a conspiracy to deny him the presidency.
It is.
He's going to go up in the polls just like he went up every single time they indicted him. The indictment, let's not talk about whether it's justified or not, but it will prove the things that he's saying on the campaign trail, and he will go up, and it may just elect him president. Do not forget that. And I say this to the Attorney General right now. If you play politics on this, this is what the secretaries of state did in Colorado and what they did in, I believe, was Maine. His numbers went up in both states.
Yeah, ballot removal.
I don't understand. I'm almost speechless in how pathetic the opposition to Trump has been and how completely misguided. And this is a perfect example of it.
Well, they have TDS, right? So they're so deluded that, like, Tish is in on this one. What's she going to do? Back off? This is her whole campaign. She ran for office on this one. I'm going to be a real pain in his butt. Remember that one? And her face was spasming all over the place. Illegitimate president, which was insurrectionary language that she never got indicted for or prosecuted. Thanks, Liz. But can she let up off the gas on this thing? I don't think so. It's her whole reason for existing. She'll be the person who folds to Trump. She's got to go take the building. Got to go take this all the way to the end. And so what happens if Trump, as we're going to read from his truths here in a second, what if he just says, come and take it?
What do you think about that?
I mean, my biggest question, this is the beauty of Frank having his job, which I don't have, is that happened, what you're talking about, Maine, Colorado, when you're talking about what happened in a primary. And while I don't disagree that the optics, I've spoken to people inside Trump world who are saying, instead of bankruptcy, we sit in the peace. Come to Trump Tower, please. We'll have cameras there. We'll have that fight. We'll win that optics battle. I think the bigger question is, in a general election, and given the fact that the Biden campaign has really latched on to this in a way that they haven't in most legal issues.
Broke down. I've been surprised to hear that.
He was joking about it last night at a fundraiser as well that was off camera, whether or not that rise in the polls can carry into a general election. And you'd know better than, I mean, you're talking to people, you'd know better.
How is Donald Trump beating Joe Biden when he's got 85 indictments that still exist? Felonies. How is he?
Because they're not legitimate. They're not seen as legitimate. You goons are going to have to figure this one out. You're going to learn it the hard way. You can keep using the institutions as cudgels of power, but when you do it against your political opponent and you do it in a way that's so nakedly opposed to justice, no one's going to believe you. No one cares about your stupid felonies, okay? Keep saying it as much as you want. He's beating them because the DOJ is lacking in credibility. And this is the problem when you are unjust, okay? This is the whole, this is why the people who become the dictators ultimately fail, right? The gravity of their power becomes all consuming, and they no longer, they use it and abuse it, and they lose their credibility and their legitimacy, and then they go. And unfortunately, I think that, America's going through that right now. The entire structure is evaporating its legitimacy. So the people don't see it anymore, right? We were told that our government was competent and capable, and they would protect us against the pandemic and be very competent, and we have state-of-the-art military and spent millions and all this crap, right? Then we got lectured, and they failed at that. Then we got lectured about what an insurrection it was, and they lied to us about that. Then they lied about the border, that's secure, and they tell us that inflation's transitory. So when they come out with 91 original felonies, no one cares. And every time that they add more or try to take some property or steal a building or throw them off the ballot, it confirms everything we've been saying here. And they just keep going. So this, I hope they continue on. And I think that they're so foolish that they will.
Beating Joe Biden with the economy getting better and things cleaning up. Okay, you got, it's still have inflation. You still got immigration. Trump is leading. And in the 7 swing states, Trump is up by the margin of error in 5 out of 7. Why is that happening? Because his critics are stupid, and they're running a horrible campaign.
Yeah.
And for those people who do not want Donald Trump back, they should be thankful that the people who are orchestrating his loss are as pathetic, and they don't understand the American people.
They don't, man. No, they don't, man. Frank Luntz is fired up. Yeah, so I wonder if he's going to call his, BFF Kevin McCarthy after that stream and, talk to him about it. But the point is, and Kev might be Trump's, chief of staff, some rumors there. Anyways, the whole point is I absolutely agree with Frank Luntz. That is dead on. Seizing property is not going to go so well for them because it is tangible. You can taste it. You can feel it. And people work their entire lives for their property. And it is part of your livelihood, right? This is the Lockean theory of property rights. You are transferring your life into the property, right? You're mixing your skills and your time and your creativity and your thinking with resources in the world, and you create value, which is your life going into that. So when they inflate your dollars, when they steal your money to fund some stupid war somewhere, when they write $1.2 trillion checks that we can't have and give credit cards to people who don't even belong here, that is theft not only of your money, but of your livelihood, of your life. That's why I get so irritated about it. So they're doing that now in full fashion by taking his property away from him, and that is like stealing his life. And it's a disgusting thing. So Trump is obviously very unhappy about this. And a lot of people on the left are listening to this saying, Trump just stepped in it, man. He really has done a number on himself here. Here's why. Trump posted this March 22nd, 4:14 a.m. He says, through hard work, talent, and luck, I currently have almost $500 million in cash. And Letish is like, oh, boy. She's wondering, what the heck? That's my money. I need to steal that back. Engeron ordered that for me. Trump says that's a substantial amount, which I intended to use in my campaign for president. Now, the often overturned political hack judge, Areola, on the rigged and corrupt AG case, where I've done nothing wrong, knew this, wanted to take it away from me, that 500 mil. And that's where he came up with this shocking number, which, coupled with his crazy interest demand, is $454 million. I did nothing wrong, says Trump, except win an election in 2016 that I wasn't even expected to win. And it did even better in 2020. And now I lead by a lot. in 2024. This is communism in America. And that's, I think Trump is accurate that Engeron had a full enema of his entire financial life, right? Because this case was a financial case and everything was under subpoena. And they had the CFO of the Trump organization, Alan Weisselberg, there, right? So he probably has kind of a good idea of what his finances look like. So Trump says that, and it's very curious, right? So Trump is, I think, kind of goading them. The point is, it's not that Trump doesn't have 500 million. Yeah, he's got 500 million. It's just not for you, Latish. Sorry. And if you come and take it, that's money that was earmarked directly for the 2024 campaign, and you're going to be stealing money from my election. That's election interference. And come and take it. So I've got the money. That's not the problem. It's just not for you. So let's see what you do about that there, Tish. Now, here were some other posts from Trump. And he was talking a lot today about this. He says, Arthur Areola Engeron, a.k.a. the Nip, those are our words, not his, is a rogue judge who was intimidated by the big, nasty, and ugly mouth of Letitia James, and her stinky feet, too, because she took her shoes off in court. Considered by many to be the worst attorney general in the U.S., she's a low IQ individual who campaigned for governor, also used my name, and then got trounced. She and her puppet, Engeron, who valued Mar-a-Lago at $18 million, when it's worth 50 to 100 times that amount, have destroyed all business prospects in New York. We're going to hear from O'Leary in a minute. And that is already dying or dead, but have no fear. When I become the 47th president, we're going to make New York great again. We got a couple more from Trump. Says, so one corrupt radical left judge in New York, a Trump hater at the highest level, can disobey and laugh at the appellate division ruling that gives me a victory and then confiscate New York property from me that took a lifetime of hard work to accumulate and build? It sounds like communism to me. There should be no fine. I did nothing wrong. Release the gag order, Engeron. And meanwhile, Trump is gagged, right? He can't even talk about this case, lest he be in violation of a court order. He says, no trial, no jury, no crime, no victim, only a crooked judge and a corrupt Trump-hating AG who takes her orders directly from the White House. Election interference at a level never seen before. He says, the New York AG used a statute to go after me that has never been used before, not once, for such a purpose. It in and of itself is so unconstitutional and unfair. Under this statute, I get no jury, I have no rights. All decision and rights are given to, in this case, a corrupt, Trump-hating judge who came up with a crazy out of thin air award in order to damage me politically and to not allow me to use any of the large amount of cash I have built up over the years through hard work, insight, instinct, and diligence on my political campaign for president. Now, that is just what crooked Joe Biden wanted this political hack, coupled with a corrupt and racist attorney general, to do. I did nothing wrong. This is simply a taking. Like eminent domain, right? They're taking your property. When the government comes in and steals from you. Now, much like what is done in communist countries and will leave it an irreparable stain on New York and its judicial system, it is totally unconstitutional, including the gag order imposed. The statute of limitations was already ruled on for me, telling us that numerous businesses have ended plans to relocate into New York because of this fabricated witch hunt. They see what's going on. They want no part of it. Peekaboo James, the racist and the corrupt AG, is considered the worst AG in the country. She spends all her time and money going after Trump and almost nothing on fighting violent crime. Engeron is a flake radical left Trump hater who despises and disrespects the appellate division and refuses to do as they say. He considers them a joke, so bad and dangerous for New York State's system of justice. And our last one says, this outrageous judgment simply fails to recognize the complete victory last year on statute of limitations. The crooked judge and biased AG Tish disregard the appeals court, which makes clear that most of the claims fall outside the statute of limitations. And none of their absurd arguments change that fact. Biased, crooked, and incompetent Engeron, who never should have presided over this case. It should have all gone to the commercial division, but really shouldn't have even been filed at all, completely ignored the fact that I had already won most of this case on appeal. But they don't care about the law, the facts, or anything, but tying up my money and tying up my property. This case should be over, but instead the AG wants to abuse her power and steal my money and interfere in the election. right? And everything is meant to bog him down. So it's not only monetarily, right? They're gonna cost him a ton of money, right? Millions and millions of dollars in defending against all these cases. Cannot be used in the campaign. So it's money, it's reputation. So they're going after him. He's a criminal, 91 felonies, and all those claims. Then they're going after the civil claims so that they can also damage his reputation and hit him monetarily with the E. Jean Carroll case. They're also using procedural mechanisms like the ballot removal efforts, using the Constitution to try to disqualify him. But think about the time too, right? His time is going to be bundled up in all of these trials. He was in the Engeron trial, showing up in New York. He's been down to Florida. He's been in Judge Chutkan's courtroom. He's been all over this country dealing with this. So that means he cannot campaign. So the opportunity cost here is massive. So it's financial assassination. Newt Gingrich makes this point. We remember him, former Speaker of the House. And here's what he says about this. Trump responded to a lot of this. And here's Newt.
Trump took a swipe at her on Truth Social yesterday, writing, numerous businesses have ended plans to relocate into New York because of the...
Well, I mean, first of all, Letitia James is probably driving more taxpayers and more profitable businesses out of New York than any other single example. We've already had over 600,000 New York taxpayers leave to go to Florida or Texas or Georgia or North Carolina or Tennessee. So the flight will just increase. But remember, 40 years ago, Tom Wolfe wrote Bonfire of the Vanities, in which a corrupt New York judge and a corrupt New York prosecutor get an extraordinary sentence for a white financier who'd been involved in a hit-and-run case. That's 40 years ago. The corruption's gotten worse. New York City politics is frankly a cesspool.
Yeah.
The Attorney General is a perfect example of that. And what you're watching is a financial assassination. This is a deliberate effort to destroy somebody because they're a presidential candidate. And I think the country understands that. And I think the country, most people, are enraged that the rule of law could degenerate into this kind of rule of power.
Exactly right. I couldn't agree more. I think that it's going to be very important to continue to communicate this, right? A lot of people are going to be under this stupor. Well, Trump's a felon and all the stuff. And so maybe he deserves to have that property taken away. And we got to continue to be focused on spreading the truth. But once people know the truth, it's hard to understand how this is justified in any way. I mean, seizing buildings from Tish and her made up case is wild times in America. Here, agreeing with us is Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary.
Now you're talking. You're right. This is hurting the American brand. What's going on in New York it has nothing to do with Trump. That case is over. What's going on now is concerning financial markets all around the world, because in the United States, and everybody, I don't care what color you are, red or blue or independent, doesn't matter, we are the bastion of safety when it comes to investing large pools of capital. That's what America represents. We have property rights, we have an appellate system, we have law people trust, and we give you good returns with the least amount of resistance. And what's happening in New York is tainting the American brand. I mean,
It's tainted.
Seizing assets after 22 days? In a bankruptcy court, you get years to resolve this. This is not a good look on New York. It doesn't matter this Trump. It could be anybody. I think that's very bad for the American brand. And I also would argue that you think about if this is going to help New Yorkers, they should be asking for better management. I'm very disturbed. And the way I look at it, and I speak to many institutional capital fronts, including sovereign wealth, because I'm trying to buy TikTok right now. So I'm running all around the world trying to raise $30-40 billion. And they all ask me the same thing. We're watching this New York thing play out. It looks to everybody like it was some dress-up court day when the parents were out and everybody got dressed up in robes and had fun acting out some court trial.
Yeah, and I want to, I think, make a distinction between, business professionals and the political class. So, the country is looking at this through multiple different lenses. We're here, we're watching it, we're on the side of liberty and freedom. They're the big bureaucrat, cheater, bully, liars. And we're observing what we think should be equal justice, where you get, juries, cross-examinations, you don't get gagged to speak about the case, you don't have two judges who are in there basically doing the same thing. And the star witness of the case is Michael Cohen, who's a convicted perjurer, who also, according to another federal judge, lied in your court. That's your star witness, and you find him to be believable. Like, the whole thing's, a total charade. So we recognize that, but we're looking through it through a political lens, right? Our end here is to save the country, get Trump reelected, stop the insanity, the TDS dementoids from hyperventilating all the time, shake them back into reality, and let's go, have better lives together. But we're not buying property in New York, right? There's a whole separate group of people that are. Opposite of us are the TDSers. They love to see people fall off their roofs, and that brings them true happiness. So their existence is to just prosecute Trump, but set us aside, set the politics aside. There's a whole group of people that are pure business people. They don't care about the politics per se. They care about making money, right? They care about building buildings and, getting a good ROI and conquering, New York real estate and all this. They're paying close attention to this, and they're realizing, wait a minute, if our politics or anything goes off the rails and we now anger Tish, we have a precedent in this place where they can just come and seize our property. So all the pros, right, and I would imagine Kevin O'Leary is well plugged into that class. They're all going, what the heck is going on here?
When are the adults coming back into this? There are no adults yet.
No, they're not, because they have one mission in mind, which, of course, is to stop Trump. So what do some of the people in power have to say about this? This is a representative called Lawler. He is a New York GOP guy. He's a Republican, and he said this in response to what's happening there, that this is a pretty big deal. Trump should have the right to appeal. What's happening with Tish is inappropriate.
Regardless of what one may think about the former president, he is still entitled to due process of law. I don't believe these properties should be seized pending appeal. I think he has every right to appeal that judgment, which anybody who watched that trial recognizes that judge was irrational in so many of his decisions. And I do think a lot of this will be, if not all of it, overturned on appeal.
But what about...
Yeah, I think he's right. But what if they are able to bundle up and set aside, limit the use of $500 million in campaign money? That's a pretty big win. If they can hold that in abeyance and escrow for, let's say, 9 months, election comes and goes. Okay, then they give you the money back. They reverse some of this stuff on appeal, but Trump is now out liquid $500 million that he could have used to secure the presidency. Could be a pretty big problem for them. So that's Lawler. And this is the AG from Missouri. He is a great attorney general, not a useless AG who is corrupt and a partisan hack like Tish. And he was brought on over on with Fox asked about Tish. And he says the only fraud here is Tish masquerading as a competent attorney. This is the AG from Missouri.
Miscarriage of justice. Remember, this was a fraud trial. The only fraud here is that AG Letitia James is masquerading as a competent attorney. Look at some of her pleadings. There's no reference to case law. And why is that? It's because there's no legal authority for what she's doing. Let's remember, this was a civil fraud trial where the claim was that banks gave loans to President Trump based on misrepresentation. And yet Letitia James isn't going after those banks for failing to do their due diligence when providing those loans. The only reason they provided those loans, in fact, was because President Trump is a brilliant businessman who was enormously successful and made tons of money for these banks and every other investor. And Letitia James hates that. She hates his success, and so she's weaponized the justice system against him, and it's terrible for all Americans. It undermines due process and undermines the rule of law.
Yeah, remember when Tish would say, too male, too pale, and too stale at her campaign speeches? Too male, too pale, and too stale, right? That's Trump, I guess. I don't know. So she's unhappy about that. Now the communists are in charge. They can retake his property.
Theft by the state of New York at Letitia James' direction of property owned by the president. And remember, this is property that he obtained legitimately through his business acumen. But I think it's important to remember that the appeal bond is intended to prevent a losing party in a lawsuit from taking their money and fleeing. And yet the assets she's trying to seize here are immovable. Those assets will be there after the appeal is completed. So there's no need to race through this process of seizing property. But also, I would point out that the whole purpose of a bond and the whole purpose of a judgment at the end of a civil trial is to make a party whole. Well, when you have no victim, because everybody who did business with President Trump as part of these transactions made money, there's no one to make whole. So again, there's no legal justification to seize this property.
Also, on the fleeing argument, the job that Trump's going for is in Washington, D.C. Kind of tough to flee the country and be president. So that completely blows that line of thinking out of the water.
It's more about humiliation. Okay. Unfortunately, I think this is the thing, right? There's a lot of different humiliation rituals that they're trying to push people through. This is one of them. There are many of them that are applying to Trump right now, right? The process is the penalty. They're trying to humiliate him. He's not a billionaire, right? Biden comes out and says, broke Don. You know, again, that has some really serious risk of backfiring on them, because it's like the bully who has an unfair advantage, who's picking on the new kid, and then making fun of the new kid to everyone else and saying, what a loser. He's such a weenie. He got beat up. You go, well, look, Trump is Trump, right? And I know they're petrified to death of the dude, but he's a private citizen right now, former president, and he's got a ton of incredible Americans at his back. That's a lot of power for sure. But legally, right, he's just a citizen. Joe Biden has the entire DOJ in the office of the presidency. So to turn them all loose, and we've seen tons of evidence that they're coordinating all of this. They met with Fannie. We know that Jack Smith basically took the order from Merrick Garland, who took the order from Joe, and the connections go on and on. But the point is, Tish and this entire onslaught is meant to humiliate him. And the point, I think, in response is that it's not working. Okay, Trump is not becoming humiliated. He is instead growing stronger, right? That negative energy is saying, okay, let's go, right? And now we'll see how they battle over this bond. And Monday should be very, very spicy indeed. So we're going to continue to cover this, my friends. We're going to see what Tish does over the weekend. I'm sure she's going to be plotting away and seeing whether or not she can put a padlock on the front of Trump Tower. We're going to be here continuing to cover this. Of course, we are going to be here on Monday, and we'll see what the day has in store for us. But thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching us. Thanks for liking this video. Thanks for inviting someone you know or love to come over here and join us when we go live so that they can see what's happening behind the scenes in these cases. We've also got some great links down in the descriptions below. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where you can find our members-only content. If you want to join us for our morning streams, our Saturday streams, and meet a great community. We also have robertgovea.com. You can sign up for our newsletter there, and then when the newsletter gets delivered to your inbox, forward it to everyone you've ever met. They'll thank you for it. We'll see you back here on the next one. All right, my friends, we got one other segment to attend to today. And let's see what you say about this, man. I hope I'm wrong on this. I think it's probably going to be a long shot. I don't know that we're going to see this come to fruition, but I think it's plausible. So let's see what happens. Another man down in Congress, bringing the Republican majority to a very, very slim margin. And if it gets slimmer, if the Democrats retake the House, we got some concern that they may have what it takes to get Trump off the 2024 ballot. And they're going to be able to hang their hat on the SCOTUS decision in Anderson, which of course was the Colorado ballot removal case, which came back out 9-0. And so we're talking about this in the context of Representative Mike Gallagher, who is now leaving Congress. And he's leaving like now. Like any day now, he's going to be out. Same with Ken Buck, same with some other Congress people. And okay, that's fine if they want to leave, right? Congress people decide not to run for re-election all the time. That's not a big deal. But why are they leaving right now? Why is there going to be this window of potential opportunity where if the House flips, okay, a couple options here, the House flips to the Democrats because let's say 3 or 4 more Republicans get out of here for whatever reason. Or what if 2 or 3 Republicans just flip over, join the Democrats, and say that they're going to give Hakeem Jeffries the gavel, right? That could happen as well. Who knows? But here's the point. We have a retirement of this representative who, by the numbers, is going to cause the margin to be very small. And we're going to talk about how this might implicate a ballot removal strategy in 5 steps. So here is the background from Politico. This is the latest. And these are very unexplained exits. Why are these people all leaving? Johnson's margin drops to only 1 vote, as Gallagher heads for the early exit. Now, Johnson is about to drop to 1 vote majority because Gallagher is leaving soon as next month. In a statement shortly put out after this story was published, he said he's going to leave on the 19th of April. Now, we'll read his statement, but Wisconsin law dictates that Gallagher's seat in a solidly red district will stay empty for the rest of his term. So isn't that weird? So it's going to stay empty. Now, if he would have left before April 9th, that would have triggered a special election. So let's be very clear about this. It is a solid red district. If this guy leaves on April 8th, okay, they're going to have a special election. They're going to put another Republican in the seat. So the House would have a vote, okay, +1. Now we have 0. So we're actually losing a seat. So he is, I think, doing this strategically, right? So he is going to say, I'm going to leave on the 19th. That way it's going to be empty this whole time. So the Republicans are down a seat and they can't replace it. He wrote his little statement, Wisconsin law dictates that Gallagher's seat will stay empty now for the rest of the term. If he would have left 10 days early, then they could have replaced them, but now not. Now there's going to be empty. You don't get a vote there. The Wisconsin Republican announced earlier this year he would not seek re-election. Okay, that's fine. Finish your term! After he received blowback for voting against impeaching Mayorkas, his allies, however, say he was long jaded by the antics following the ouster of McCarthy. It's bad timing for Johnson, who is now potentially facing a vote on his ouster in the upcoming weeks. Marjorie filed a motion to vacate, which I don't think is going to go anywhere. I think she recognized how bad this is. We're going to see in a minute how close we are to losing this. Over Johnson working with Democrats, at the moment, no other Republicans have said they support her. Gallagher's decision not to finish out the term furthers fuel concerns over the conference trajectory headed into November. It's tough, but it's tough with a 5-seat majority. It's tough with a 2-seat majority. 1 is going to be the same. We all have to work together. We're all going to have to unite if we're going to get some things done, said Steve Scalise. House lawmakers left D.C. Friday on a 2-week recess, meaning that the soonest Green, Marjorie, could call for a vote. I don't think that's going to happen. If she pushes for a vote after that date, she's not. Gallagher is one of the several House Republicans who decided to call it quits this year. Others have left. Patrick Mahenry's out. Kay Granger is retiring, but they're going at the end of their terms. Good. Granger also announced on Friday that she would be leaving her post on appropriations early. So now their decisions have sparked interest given their ages. Gallagher's 39. Why is he leaving? McHenry's 48. What's next for either is unclear. Gallagher is going to continue to work on national security issues. Yeah. But his premature departure is surprising. Talking about the TikTok bill, he was a centrist vote, widely viewed as leading in cyber policy. They expect this is only going to be a speed bump, right? They're going to continue to work through this. Now, let me show you just how tight and close these numbers are right after we listen to Gallagher's statement. Here is what he said in his official resignation, which is just pathetic. He wrote, a statement from Congressman Mike Gallagher, who for some reason conveniently timed it to do maximum damage to the Republican Party. Thanks, brother, Mike Gallagher. After conversations with my family, I've made the decision to resign my position effective April 19th, 10 days after the deadline, so that we could get another Republican in there to have a red vote. Good job. Says, quote, I've worked closely with the House Republican leadership on this timeline and looking forward to seeing Speaker Johnson appoint a new chair to carry out the work against the Chinese Communist Party, whatever. My office will continue to operate and provide constituent services on the 8th District for the remainder of the term. Great. So your office will still field phone calls, but you're not going to be in there to vote. Great. Totally useless. 4 terms serving Northeast Wisconsin in Congress has been a great honor. I'm going to be proud of my work. It's been an honor to serve. Useless. Useless. Yeah, where is he going to go? Of course, he's going over to some, defense contractor. And I would imagine, right, that there is a strong incentive for him. We're going to give you a big fat landing pad, but you got to come over here at this time, right? So the seat's going to stay open. And I think a lot of this is by design. And we're going to reread the Anderson opinion with this in mind. What happens if the Democrats control the House? Watch, we're going to read it. It's scary. But here are the numbers. By the numbers, Axios put those together. It says the House GOP will face a 1-vote majority as another Republican plans the exit. Now, the chair of the China Select Committee is out. Why this matters, it's going to be a 1-vote margin when Gallagher leaves. And that's set to dwindle even further later in April. What? So a special election to replace Brian Higgins is set for April 30th. All right. So just keep track at home, my friends. Brian Higgins, who's a Democrat, is not there currently. And so another Democrat's going to come back in April 30th. So Gallagher was already planning to retire at the end of the session, but now it's going to be an empty spot, right? So +1 goes to 0. After conversations with my family, he's left. He was seen as a rising star. And we don't know why he's leaving. By the numbers, though, so check this out. Republicans are set to be down to just 218 members to Democrats' 213. So when Ken Buck leaves, he's leaving, I guess, Friday. Gallagher will bring that to 217. Okay, so it'll be 217 to 213. Republicans will be able to afford just one defection on any party line vote when Gallagher leaves. Any more would cause a bill to fail. Now, Higgins' replacement will bring that up. So the Democrats are also down 1. So they have a +0 position, but they're going to get that back. So they're going to have a +1 there in the Higgins spot. So it's going to be 217 to 214. Once Gallagher leaves, ours will be at 217. Once Higgins comes back, it's at 214. So 217 to 214. So we got 3 either Republicans leave, defections, or let's say they just don't even need 3. Really just need, well, I mean, if they defected to the other side, right, just do the math on that. What if they defected? What if you get some squishy Republicans that just defect and vote with Democrats? But then, of course, if the Republicans are in control, then Johnson may prevent any bill like this from hitting the floor. But my point is, we are very close. We are on a razor's edge. 3 special elections are coming up in May and June. So there's going to be a special election to replace Buck. And other Republicans will almost certainly give Republicans some other breathing room. So there are 3 spots that might flip. What happens if, someone like Buck comes back? Buck gets replaced by someone like Buck who decides that Trump's an insurrectionist. We are on the precipice. So Republicans were already panicking when Buck announced his resignation, but now Gallagher's departure is going to set off a 5-alarm fire. Yeah, I'm like, wow. You can almost see it happening, right? But Mike Johnson is essentially dispensed of party line votes. That's why Johnson is voting with the left on everything. He's got like no power at all. Bipartisan legislation. Vote in favor of voting on major bipartisan legislation under a process that requires bills to pass with a 2/3 majority. Okay, so this is where my question comes in. What type of legislation could the House pass? Could it be a simple majority? Or why does it need to be 2/3 majority? Because those are House rules, right? Like the House just set their own rules. So what happens if the Democrats take control and there's a three vote split? Well, obviously, I think it's a pretty simple plot, not even complicated. Democrats retake the House. They take power. Hakeem Jeffries gets the gavel. They pass some legislation. I don't know how that works, right? They write some new rules, whatever. No one knows how this works. Okay, so we just wake up one morning and there's a big 1,000-page bill on someone's desk. None of them read it. They all vote for it. So who the hell knows, right? I don't know. But they cobble together a resolution, whatever. It's not an impeachment. It's just a resolution. It's just a bill. It's just a whatever. It's legislation, as the case is going to tell us. They pass it. It goes over to the Senate. Clearly Democrats. They sign that overnight. Just what happened with this bill today. Okay, so just envision what happened with the current bill, the $1.2 trillion spending bill. They just do it again with Trump. Goes to Biden's desk. He signs it. And then this whole thing is supported by a 9-0 Supreme Court decision, okay? In other words, this case gives them a basis for doing this. They say, well, the Supreme Court said so. And it's not going to be challengeable in court, or if it will, it's going to be a tall standard to show why Trump should stay on the ballot. So let me show you now. Let's reread just a small portion of Anderson, a tiny portion of Anderson, just to show you what's going on. And this one, man, I think this one feels like there's something weird afoot. They're trying to, these Congress people just keep dropping out. So remember in this opinion, this is the 9-0 opinion, and it's 9-0, right? So there was a question about this being a dissent for some reason, and then maybe the dissenter joined back with the majority. Why? I don't know. Put on the tinfoil hats, okay? But here is what this opinion says. For its part, the Colorado Supreme Court, which was wrong, they overturned it, they concluded that there must be a determination before you remove someone and you disqualify them under the 14th Amendment. That's the insurrection clause. What is the determination, you're asking? Who gets to decide? This was the whole point of the ballot removal case. Jenna Griswold and the Colorado courts, they thought that they could make the determination. The Supreme Court said, no, you don't get to make that determination. You know who does? Congress. The Constitution, this is our SCOTUS writing, and they just came out with this. Congress is empowered. The Constitution empowers Congress to prescribe how those determinations should be made. The relevant provision is Section 5, which enables Congress, subject, of course, to judicial review, meaning the courts can take a second look at this, so don't get carried away, and maybe that's a safety valve. But Congress has the power that enables Congress, here it is, to pass appropriate legislation. See that in quotes? What is that? I don't know. What is appropriate legislation? To enforce the 14th Amendment. Huh. I don't know, 51 vote, 51 simple House, 51% vote. That's it, right? A House rep plus one. Now, again, this is not like impeachment, right? This is not like a impeachment standard where you got to go impeachment and then 2/3 conviction in the Senate. No. Or as Senator Howard put it upon at the time that the amendment was framed, he wrote in this Congress, he said, Section 5, it casts upon Congress the responsibility of seeing to it for the future that all sections of the amendment are carried out in good faith, right? So the Democrats could come in and they just pass appropriate legislation according to their rules. They said Section 5 is critical when it comes to Section 3. During a debate, hundreds of men were holding office in violation of their terms, and they put together a bill. They wrote the Enforcement Act of 1870, right? It was pursuant to the power conferred by Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. That's how they brought it in. Now, that's what we get from SCOTUS, okay? They're not giving us much more. So they say Congress, right? Congress can decide. Now, this case rests on the question, can the states also decide? No, okay? The states cannot decide. Sorry, Colorado. Sorry, Crazy Eyes Griswold. They can govern the states, but it doesn't extend to federal office holders. So that is troubling, right? Now, if Congress just decide, look, there's not much more meat to that. Appropriate legislation. Not an impeachment. So if they get control of the House, I expect this to happen. And I really hope that they do not. And I think it's still probably a long shot that they do, because there's still a couple of those seats that are up there in contention. But if they retake the House, the appropriate legislation, I don't know what standard that is going to be, and Trump's going to have to challenge that. They'll just remove him. And then Trump would have to file a lawsuit, litigate all of that again, and we'd see what the Supreme Court says about it. But they set a standard, and if Congress passes legislation, it's going to be a tall hill to climb. So troubling indeed. And we've got, a lot of this is happening, but Marjorie said that there was going to be a motion to vacate. Clay Higgins says that's going to be a pretty big mistake. Clay Higgins has some serious credibility in my view, based on his J6 committee report, which was just outstanding, which I believe was from him. I think. So anyways, here's what he says, paying all due respect to Marjorie, but Mike Johnson is like the last dude. This guy's like holding together, like Spider-Man in that scene where he's trying to stop that subway from falling off the cliff. Because if Hakeem gets this gavel back, we're in big trouble.
I consider Marjorie Taylor Greene to be my friend. She's still my friend, but she just made a big mistake. Trying to vacate Mike Johnson's, I totally oppose that. Listen, Mike is a very good man. He begins every day from the right place. He's deeply principled. He's like a brother to me. And to think that one of our Republican colleagues would call for his ouster right now, it's abhorrent to me, and I oppose it. I stand with Mike Johnson. He is maybe the only guy in history that could potentially perform and help us navigate through these very dark and challenging times when he has to deal with a one vote majority in the House of Representatives. He's got a Democrat-controlled Senate and a weaponized Democrat-controlled White House. You got one guy that can deal with that. You know who it is? My brother, Mike Johnson. I stand with Mike. And I expect my colleagues to unanimously oppose this big mistake that was presented today by, again, a lady that I consider a friend. Sometimes friend makes mistakes, and in this case, Marjorie has made a big mistake. I stand with Mike Johnson.
All right, so you can almost hear the precariousness in his voice. We're right on the brink there. But apparently Marjorie, I think, is getting the message on it. The big concern is what happens if Johnson's out. Do some Republicans join with some Democrats to bring in Hakeem? That could be catastrophic. So she filed a motion to vacate. Many Republicans slammed it. So unfortunate, Nancy Pelosi said. Shut up, Nancy. Other people said, are you effing kidding me? We're not supporting that. What did it mean? She filed a motion to vacate, the same procedural move used last year. What Greene did not do was trigger action on the motion, okay, or start any clock on this, so it doesn't guarantee action on the proposal at all. Yeah, Greene said on Friday she was not looking for a repeat of the weeks of mayhem that followed the removal, and will be trying to formulate a plan for electing a new leader before triggering the resolution. So it's just filed but not going on. The House is set to go on a 2-week vacay, and it's going to give her time to rally colleagues. Greene said Friday she believes the GOP voters do not want to see a Republican speaker that's held in place by Democrats. And we definitely don't want a Democrat speaker either. Her charge against Johnson is he keeps spending bills, which I agree. It's like wild. We were mocking it today. You're a trillionaire. You're a trillionaire. We're all going to be trillionaires soon. Tool's been used frequently. It's wonky. But are they going to vote on this in 2 weeks? No guarantee of that. Greene could have called up the resolution and forced it. Instead, she is sitting on what amounts to just a threat. She said, I'm not saying it's not going to happen in 2 weeks or it won't happen in 2 months. Who knows? So I think she'll probably walk it back, right? In short, many of the rebels who were upset with tossing Speaker weren't on board yet. Were upset and tossed Speaker McCarthy weren't on board with green. So, all right, my friends. So I know it is troubling indeed, right? Very troubling news. And I don't know what's going on with these Republicans who are keep bailing out. Like, why now? Again, it's fine. Okay, you don't want to leave? You want to leave Congress? I can't blame you. It's a dumpster fire in there, man. I can't believe you were there as long as you were. But why right now? To me, I think it implies that there's some strategy here. Okay, he got a job at Raytheon, or he got a job with Boeing or BlackRock or whatever, and timed it appropriately. So my question is, they don't need that many more to go. 3 people, the whole thing flips between now. Who else is going to have a visit from the CIA? You're done now. You're done. Thanks for playing. Or they've just got Ken Buck's election. They can go, rig that election up or whatever. So it is hanging in the balance. And I think that SCOTUS is now going to lay a foundation for them to use that and be supported by a 9-0 Supreme Court. So if you have a squishy Republican congressman, make sure they don't go anywhere, all right? Make sure they stay right butts in seats between now and the next election, because this thing seems problematic. And so, my friends, thank you for joining us. We're going to keep covering this and try to assemble all their little tyrannical strategies between now and 2024. Thank you for joining us as we do. I greatly appreciate you subscribing. It means we'll be back here and see each other the next time. We also have a lot of great links down in the description below. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you'd like to join us for some streams in the morning or on Saturday, we talk about some other affairs that we can't get into here. We have a great community as well. We'd love to have you join us. watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Links are in the description. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it on the day. We had some little troubling news there on a Friday. Sorry to drop that, disgusting topic on the end of at the end of the week, but it's true. It's happening. I mean, what the heck's going on? And the seizure will backfire. Tish James, I think, is in over her skis. Now, my friends, let's hear from you and see what you have to say about all this. Some very generous donos in the house. Thank you to our mods, Vientica's clipping away for us on the day. It's a beautiful Friday, my friends, and I hope you had an amazing week. Who is in the house starting things off? We got Tom F. is here. What's up, Tom? Tom's a membo on YouTube. Says Trump should post $500 million in cash delivered in briefcases carried by supermodels. It'd be a 50-state sweep. 50-state sweep. And just dump it on Tish's disgusting desk. I like it. I like it. It's a good strategy. Election would be over. Hey, it's the Munkets. Bringing in membos. Man, our chat is so greened out. I love it. You guys are so amazing. Our chat is mostly green. It's incredible. Tony Hay. What's up, Tony Hay? Angela M's coming in. Avery George. Hell W. We got Vaughn M and Pamela F, our newest membos, brought in courtesy of Tony Hay. Hey, it's the Munkets. We got Kathleen B. What's up, Kathleen B? Coming in as a supporter. We'll see you tomorrow as well on our members only stream. Larry Smay, a membo for 1 month. First month's the hardest, gets easier from there. Comments took me to this supporter site. Maybe locals, maybe watchingthewatchers.locals.com. That's another great place to sign up too, Larry. Thanks for being a membo. Sandra M says, what about what Trump said about having the money for Monday? Well, he has the money, but I don't think it's for Tish. So I think he has it. Is the question, is he going to post it? Kind of hope he doesn't, That's campaign money. We got to save this country. That's not Tish's money. I think he should kind of keep that for the campaign. She can have a building if she wants it. Mary M says Trump got $500 million. It was announced today at the Epoch Times. So let's see if they have an update for us on that. So I know he said it. I know he said that he has it. But is he going to give it to Tish? Looking over here, I don't see anything. Like, did he post a bond? Is that all settled? That was my question. I know he said he's got the $500 million, but it's not Tish's money, I believe. But thank you, Mary, for the very nice and generous dono today. I'm grateful for you, Mary. Thank you for you. We got King Ginger says, if Tishy Lay Tish tries to take Trump's property, New Yorkers should stand in front of the building to block Tish from seizing the building. Yeah. Or maybe they should, it's theirs now, right? It's the city's building. So everybody can see what happens when the city's in charge of a building, like that they stole from someone else, in other words. Yeah, it's not going to go well for them, King Ginger. Guess is here, says, love your show, my friend. Thank you, Guess. Love you back. Very sweet of you. Says, I love the chat vibe. We got a great chat. We got great people here. The best. You're part of that, Guess. Thanks for being a part of it and for keeping it so amazing. We got Lady Ice is here, says, those choosing now of all times to leave office, many of them doing so early before their term ends, have to be either being threatened, blackmailed, or they were plants to begin with. I don't know what other reason. Like you really care about your country and you don't want the Democrats to take control. So you time your exit so that they can't put another Republican vote in there. It's just empty. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? All right. Thank you. Just Ranting says, Rob, Czar worse than South America. It's South Africa. Oh, did I say South America? I knew that. That's just a faux pas. Or that's not a faux pas. That's just a misspeak. I knew it was South Africa. That's what I was thinking. Czar, South Africa. Thank you for that. Just Ranting. Yeah, man, I follow this great account over there in South Africa called Canine Reaper. Shout out to Canine Reaper on X. Yeah, he's out there, man. He's out there it's like a war zone out there in some places. It's crazy. Very interesting account. And actually, I think that account is very important to follow because it's probably what's coming to America soon. So get ready for that. It's the canary in the coal mine. You can see a lot of what's happening over there and start to see how you might need to live soon coming to a blue city near you. Knox is here. Says, good evening, everyone. I think you may be onto something, Robert. Think about it. All those malevolent, devious little minds all devoted to keeping their grimy fingers on levers of power. I can totally see it happening. Now, the reason why I think that it would not is because there would be a civil war in this country. There would be a big problem with that. If we wake up and they're like, no, Congress just said he's not on the ballot anymore, so you can't vote for him. People go, wait. What? Wait, what? Don't think that'd go over well, but they already tried it, right? I was thinking, it's like, there's no way that I was thinking to myself, there's no way that they're crazy enough to try this. And I thought, hey, dum-dum, they just did it twice. They just tried it in Colorado, and Shenna Bellows did it in Maine. Went all the way up to the Supreme Court. So of course they try it. Had to correct myself in real time. Voice is here. Bringing in 5 new members. What's up, Voice? Arnett S is here. One Voice is joining us. Joel's here. Gideon K is here. Kevin A coming in, courtesy of Voice of the People, who's an amazing member and very generous as well. Thank you, Voice. We got Milo Phone Bill says, SCOTUS has ruled that the 8th Amendment, which bars excessive fines, limits the ability of the federal government to seize property in a 9-0 decision. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. So we're going to see a lot of conflicts here. We're going to see what Tish does, and maybe Trump will challenge that directly, right? Challenge the seizure. Brian is here, says, if Congress passes a resolution declaring Trump an insurrectionist, it would be a bill of attainder. I don't know. I don't know, because I think, a bill of attainder would be like a criminal law, right? Like if somebody does something and you say that was illegal, they're saying that it was already illegal, that insurrection was already illegal. So it's not a bill of attainder, like they're not passing a new law. Insurrection was already bad. It's already said you can't be an insurrectionist in the 14th Amendment. So it's not a new law that they're retroactively applying to somebody. It's just a declaration. It's that this happened and Trump is an insurrectionist under the existing law. So I don't think it's a new law. It's just a finding, essentially. And I don't know how it would pass, or what the mechanism of passage would be, but it's Congress. Like they shove crap down our gullets all the time. Like remember healthcare? They did reconciliation and all of it. Nobody knows what the heck happened, but we got healthcare, right? So I guess it's still a problem though, which is weird. I know. I hope I'm wrong. Spud says Lawler is a rhino and Donald Trump's property is in his district. He used to be decent. Well, he seemed pretty reasonable in that clip. I obviously don't know the guy, but he seemed reasonable in that one clip we played. Agreed that Trump should be able to appeal. Newbie of Death says, why wouldn't Dumas, like Alexander Dumas? Didn't he write the Count of Monte Cristo? Anyways, says, why wouldn't Trump put Mar-a-Lago up for the bond to prove its value is way over Nipple Guy, Engeron, the valuation, and he can kill two birds with one swoop, mixed metaphors aside. Well, I don't think he wants to put up anything, is sort of the point that we're getting to. Saying, if you want to come take this, you can. Come and take it. Milo Phone Bill says, here are the defendants, Trump Jr., so on, revocable trust, all the LLCs. Which of these people and companies were found to be guilty? I think all of them. So they just name the other entities. So yeah, I don't know specifically, but I mean, Trump. We got this one from Sportfish. Says, if SCOTUS finds Tishy and Engeron Areola violated Trump's constitutional rights, can they be prosecuted criminally? Probably not. I mean, probably not, right? You have judicial immunity. You've got government immunity against, unless they committed a crime, right? Unless they committed a crime. But generally, no, right? People get acquitted all the time, or people get, released from prison. They don't file charges against the other people because they rotted away in jail for, an unconstitutional conviction or whatever. Repo Man says we all need, which is, kind of a disgrace, right? If prosecutors actually had to serve the penalties when they're found guilty of misconduct, maybe that would create disincentives for the misconduct. We got Repo Man says, we all need to go vote these people out and take our country back. Go Trump, from Repo Man in the house. US America. Rob is here on Rumble, says all of this lawfare is going to make Trump win New York. Actually, Trump could let go of his businesses and property in New York and get out of New York, and then other businesses will be leaving New York for sure. Leanne on Locals says, so Stinky Feet James, Stinky, takes over Trump's property, can't sell enough to pay the outstanding mortgages. Trump buys back at a fraction of the cost under some unknown corporation. Art of the Deal Jimmy makes me throw up in his mouth. He makes fun and the audience cheers him on. I know, they're just kind of negative, dark people in their core. They thrive on the pain and suffering of others, unfortunately. It's kind of a sick way to live, but there's a lot of them. Ruby Diamond says, Dems and rhinos have either been blackmailed, bribed, or threatened. They are literally fighting for their lives as treason and sedition in the USA. Yeah, it is a strange thing that is happening. Ray K says, Rob, love your continued energy every day, Rob. Do you ever crash? You mean like... Yeah, I mean, yeah, all the time. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the show certainly, after the show, I mean, I'm usually pretty exhausted. I'm like, oh gosh, I like to lay it all out there. But, I don't think like crash like a bad thing. It's kind of like, hey man, we just did it. It's like kind of like going to the gym, It's like you just did the thing. It's like, we did it. Nice job, all right? But yeah, I mean, I put a lot of energy into it. But yeah, I think it's all good. I think it's, it's what we got to do, right, Kay? It's good to be here. Thanks for noticing. Rob says, Matt Kim said it best, which is what Trump is fighting about. None of this is about getting Trump. It's about dividing the country and getting us. I see. Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going with this humiliation ritual, right? It's like to really agitate people and get people fired up and seeing where that goes. Kelly D, what's up, Kelly? Says, Rob, I love the fire in you for the truth. A great big spotlight is shining to expose every dirty secret and dollar that brings every one of these DA special prosecutor judges all back to Biden. Thank you, Kelly D. Well, and I appreciate you being here and supporting us. I mean, and that's the other thing too. It's like, even if I'm having like a down day, like certainly I have my days where, I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling that well. I maybe had a bad sleep or whatever, right? Have a little, sore throat or something like that. But the energy comes to me in large part from you, right? It's like this symbiotic thing that happens. We get here together. We have to do this. We got business to attend to. And so I am enthused, energized by you. Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Ray K, for the question. Milo Phone Bill says 100% no victim, no one to make whole. But they still want to steal property anyways. Uncle 60 says, what happens to tenants and businesses that are in his properties? Trump should put a squatter in every property he owns. New York loves squatters. Yeah, and then when Tish comes up to take them away, they can arrest Tish. Michael is here. What's up, Michael? On YouTube says, Don is leaning towards letting the properties go and shall focus on the campaign. The life achievement of a second term is far more valuable to him and to the family. His concern is more for the unseen opponent until the DNC. Interesting. Yeah, and that's, we were kind of talking about that this morning, Michael. It's how many buildings and properties does Trump have? Okay, if they seize one of them, do you get value out of that in the court of public opinion? And do you have an opportunity to maybe reclaim that property? And so is it really, a net loss? It might be a net win. And maybe he wins New York, something like that could happen. I think they are really overdoing it. And people are recognizing it. Thank you, Michael. Nice dono. Sheila P says, disgusted by the crimes that are being perpetrated against Trump and our Constitution. You and me both, Sheila. Thank you for joining us as we continue to go through it all. We got Knox says, the rhinos leaving are so bought or they're threatened. Someone needs to deep dive their activities. Yeah, it's going to be very curious where they land up, right? Do they all go to the same defense contractor where they all promise gigs, right? There are people timing this stuff out, and it feels like they're just whittling away at Congress. Chubby says, can the people who voted for these Republican representatives sue those abandoning their claims, their terms for something, I don't know, like dereliction of duty? I don't think so. Seems like there has to be something that can be done to counter these despicable political games they're playing. I don't think so. Yeah. It's just cowardly, right? Just call them cowards and they'll be liable to the court of public opinion moving forward. But you can't force somebody to do a job, right? They're resigning. Now, he did it very maliciously, did it to hurt the Republicans. Why is that? Hope it was worth it wherever he gets paid. Goose Toots says, Michael Johnson, go to your room and think about what you've done. Forehead. Michael Johnson. Is that his middle name? Boofus? Johnson. Go to your room and think. Well, hopefully he does. Lady Ice says, is it possible to win the Dem seats with special elections? Or are they appointed? Or maybe deep blue seats? I don't know. Or what if some of the R seats that they think are going to go R, what if those go blue? There's some weird aberration with their machines there in their special election. Who knows? Ronnie C. Amembo for 1 month. First month's the hardest. Did you hear about the terrorist attack in Russia? I did, actually, right as I was sitting down. It looks horrendous. And I think I saw that ISIS declared that they were behind that. So absolutely horrible. Prayers for all the people who were hurt and injured there and their families. It's terrible. People sitting around at I think a music hall, and people just came in and opened fire. So, scary thought. And we have about, in America, we have about, about 11 million people that we don't really have a good eye on. So we might have some of that in that bucket. I don't know. Maybe just a thought. Mark C. What's up, Mark? Good to have you as a supporter. Welcome aboard, Mark C. in the house. Good to have you, Mark. Cowboy Rob says, if he's resigning, his office should be closed. He should be forced out of government activities altogether or forced from the rep out party. Yeah. He's going to serve his constituency, but not vote for Republicans. Ronnie says they are retiring to sabotage President Trump. 13 likes on that one. Feels like it to me. Kelly D says, what's worse to a thief not being able to steal what they want? It is one who believes they have succeeded, but suddenly it's ripped out from under them and they get charged and they lose more than what they would have gained. Justice from Kelly D. So you mean, in other words, Tish is going to think that she is saving New York City and saving America, but karma and the universe will come back and justice will ultimately be done. I think you're right. Mark C. says Trump should pay to appeal, keep it tied up in litigation, potentially earn back the $115,000 daily interest he's missing out on for 4.5 years. This woman is going to cost New York big league. You're right, Mark. And Kevin O'Leary and a lot of people, you know, like these cause massive trends. Like, you're not going to see an exodus of millionaires overnight. Maybe you are. But over the next, 5 years or however long Tish is in office, there will be some repercussions for this, no doubt. Better Ask Matt says a bill of attainder would not be appropriate. Well, that's my question, Better Ask Matt. So my thought is it a bill of attainder? Because I think it would just be already saying that insurrection is already a law and it's just a resolution. It's a congressional resolution that Congress has been able to determine. So if Congress does it, and Better Ask Matt, by the way, had a great interview with Nick Rekieta, and Better Ask Matt submitted an immunity amicus brief to the Supreme Court. So he knows what he's talking about. So this might be the answer. And he's at betteraskmatt.com if you want to look him up. So this might be the answer, but my question is, Congress has already basically enabled that. So, and practically, if Congress passes it and they say SCOTUS just allowed us to pass legislation, then the states would remove him and then Trump would have to relitigate this, wouldn't he? He'd have to file. So now Griswold and Bellows would turn around and respond and they would remove him. But then he would have to say it's a bill of attainder and have to work his way back up to the Supreme Court. I think we have to litigate it again. Gosh. All right. Better Ask Matt. Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you. I'm wanting to continue to explore this. Make sure I'm not missing it. Janice is here. What's up, Janice? In the house. Thank you for the nice dono. Very generous from you. Hey, it's the Munkets. Bringing in 5 membos. We got Christy S is here. We got NABR, Sodium Bromine, Joshua H, Cindy W, Bart Man XOXO in the house, brought in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. John McGarvey says, hey, Rob, this Rumble chat is so well behaved. A lot of gentlemen and gentle ladies over there. We have dinner table manners in our chat, like friends at a dinner table. Okay, without the uncle who throws the plate of broccoli at the table. Bad Poet is here. You should ask Carrie Lake why Congress keeps resigning. Is it treason for someone to bribe Congress and install a dictator regime? Just asking for a friend. You're right. Carrie Lake might have some perspective on that, given the fact that she got almost bribed to get out of the race, right? Like, that's probably what's going on. Those same conversations. Who is dinner table manners? Yes, that's right. Who is the person making these offers? Who knows? John McGarvey says, I stand with my Johnson. Oops, typo. He meant Mike Johnson. He stands with Mike Johnson. And with his Johnson, too. I mean, most of us do these days. Although there's a weird thing to get other people to get rid of them, Aggie says, Rob, any legislation that would make a declaration about the guilt of a specific individual would be a bill of attainder. There would be a massive backlash before it gets obliterated at SCOTUS. If they want to block Trump from taking office, there are ways that would not cause a shooting war. Well, what legislation is that? So if the Supreme Court wrote this, like they just said that you can pass legislation, right, to make a determination. Like, I didn't write it, they wrote it. So what is this? What is this appropriate legislation to enforce the 14th? I don't know. Seems like they can do something. So what is it? Slappy T says, I take pride in being that uncle. Anna Bean says, I'm that ant. All right, we got a lot of broccoli being thrown around over there on Rumble. I mean, I guess if that's the kind of family, you know, I guess. A lot of different dinners. Shout out to our friends on Rumble. Says, don't leave. Okay. So here we got, right? I don't know. Where does this go? I don't know. Appropriate legislation. And that legislation says Trump, there was an insurrection. Trump was the leader of it. And this is a judicial finding pursuant to the 14th Amendment. You cannot run now. And it's not a criminal law. It's not a new law. Just declares our country lived through an insurrection. And Trump happened to be at the top of it. So then, right, they pass it. Jenna Griswold says, oh, Congress just passed it. And then they remove Trump under the Anderson opinion. They say 9-0, unanimous. Congress can do it. Then Trump has to litigate again to say that under judicial review, I guess that's a bill of attainder, right? So like we might be back at this whole thing again if they are able to retake Congress, which, you know, who knows if that happens. But I agree, it would be a big problem, right? If we woke up and they just removed him, it would be a big, big problem. What about me? 1 year anniversary, baby. Says, yeah, 1 year badge and a Friday night equals wood moment. Log wood moment. Chopping wood moment in the house. What about me? 1 year Membo. Thank you for being here for a full year. We've covered a lot of ground here. Jane K says, yes, there is a dark agenda. James Carville was on with Anderson. Says Biden doesn't need to do the wet work in 2024. We listened to that clip this morning on our members only stream. Yeah, we're like, what? We looked it up. Bonnie from Locals pulled up the definition for us and was like, this means assassination. Unless James Carville was talking about doing some masonry work on Trump's residence, which I don't think he was. Jennifer gifted 5 membos in the house, including Rye B, Pan-Seared Ribeye, Chris M, Spider L, and Patriot. We are under siege in the house. Thank you, Jennifer, for bringing in 5 of our newest membos. Woodworking Pastor is in the house. First super chat, Woodworking Pastor. That sounds like a nice way to live, a real nice way to live. Woodworking, you know, that sounds great. And being a pastor, too. Da Hook is here. Says, Bongino said earlier with RFK in, no candidate will get 270. So the House will vote in the president, and that's the reason these traitors are leaving, choosing money over saving their country. Yeah, that's another prospect, too, right? Is the Democrats just control the House and they don't seat anybody after the election. But if they control the House, I think that the smarter play for them would just be to try to get him off the ballot. And maybe not in every state, only a couple states, right? Newt is here. Newt Gadget. What's up, Newt? Thank you for the dono, my friend. No question, but very generous of you. Glad to have you here. Lover of Green says, I'd be interested to see if the DNC initiates a COOF 2.0. You know, health mandates ended because of terrible public opinion, but there are people who still wear face napkins in 2024. Says stupidity is the real crisis. You know, there's a lot of that. A lot of people, I think, still traumatized. I sometimes feel bad for them, you know, because they got so obliterated by the propaganda that they're still petrified about it. It's like, you guys, come on. All right, come on. Enough already. Come on. You know, let's have a real conversation about this. But I don't know. You know, I think that, who was it? Ron Paul was talking about a black swan. Catherine Herridge was talking about a black swan. We have, you know, this weird thing happening in Russia now. And, you know, we're waiting, you know, anything could happen. We could have a China-Taiwan invasion. We could have a similar type of attack here in the United States. Something could go nuclear, right? I've always said that if there is one radioactive isotope in the house, then everybody will freak out. John Allen says, Rob, I needed to be added as a YouTube mod. This one from Ken says, does the 14th apply to the president? Does the 14th Amendment apply to the president? Well, we never actually reached that question because they just said that the state didn't have any authority to make the decision on their own. They delegated that out to the states. But Congress now is the only one that can decide. Wojo says, I challenge anyone that thinks open borders are okay to remove their front and back door to have an open house. Well, and they can house a lot of those illegals as well if they want to. We got John McGarvey saying, no, he doesn't. John McGarvey says, no, he doesn't. Hey, it's the Munkets. Bringing in 5 new members. Brian C., Charles D., SC Joe. We got Cyprian C., Jennifer S., all in the house, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Thank you, Tony. We've got this one. I believe there was a mix-up on the 500 mil. Trump is suing a former lawyer for 500 mil. Oh, there you go. Trump sues Michael Cohen for 500 million in damages. Good. I hope he gets it. Every penny. Michael doesn't have any money. Woodworking Pastor says 14th would have faced at least a filibuster vote in the Senate. 14th would have faced at least a filibuster vote in the Senate, probably, but they have the majority. Mary M says if the Democrats get into the majority and they pass this legislation, what is it, a constitutional amendment? No, I don't think it would be a constitutional amendment. That would require a much higher threshold. It would be retroactive. Well, I think it would be just a congressional finding that it happened. So, and you know, it's just a finding that it happened, I guess. And I don't know that there's a statute of limitations on that. Like, is there it's a political process. Is there a statute of limitations on when they can pass legislation talking about an insurrection? I don't think so. I want to be wrong. I want to. Joe Flynn is here, says we need to subpoena all the communication records for the past 6 months from Mike Gallagher and Ken Buck. It would be nice, but there's no basis. This will allow us to uncover collusion and bribery. I know. I'm sure it's probably not even that nefarious. They're probably just public, emails like to Raytheon or to another contractor. Spuds is here, says the state would be stuck with it and it would be a huge liability, and adjoining property owners and taxpayers in the town of Mount Pleasant would see their taxes skyrocket since the state doesn't pay any taxes. Big mistake on Tish's part. Yeah, I imagine there will be a lot of consequences there. People in New York, they don't play around with billion-dollar buildings, right? Stalker, what's up, Stalker? Thank you for the nice dono, my friend. Very great to see you. Daisy Girl Williams, what's going on? 9 months as a membo and a new baby in the house, courtesy of Daisy Girl Williams and 9 months of membership. Says K9 Reaper was on Future Conflict channel recently. That sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds cool. Future Conflict channel. Shout out to Future Conflict. Shout out to K9 Reaper. Interesting stuff going on over there in South Africa and maybe the old canary in the coal mine down there. Eleanor Schnover says, typing has a mind of its own. The CCP is insidious, so everything is possible. Thank you for your analysis. Thank you, Eleanor. Typing does have a mind of its own. Yeah, it gets the best of us. Thank you, Eleanor. Thanks for the dono. Thanks for being here. Angry Bellsprout says, Trump wants mass deportations. Think he will learn from the mistakes of Operation that word? Yeah, I know he's saying that. I don't know that we're really going to get that. I don't know that Trump wants to be responsible, He's saying that. I don't know that he's actually going to do that. We'll see. Rub some dirt on it, says, the excessive fine issue was decided by the Supreme Court. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote the main opinion for the court. It's called Timms versus Indiana. Very cool. Good filling in the gaps on that one. Constitutioncenter.org. Rob Dumas means thank you for that, Fred. Yeah, thank you for that insightful explanation. We got this one from Lady Ice. Says, I love the values of Trump's properties. Now that they are being officially appraised for possible collateral, are all valued magnitudes above what they said they were. He should put them as a collateral, and it would actually strengthen his appeal, pretty much proving it was all a sham and guarantee a win. Yeah, so also, he could also post Mar-a-Lago up, right? Engeron said that was only worth 18 million. He posted up for 100 million. And it shows that they were wrong, he was right, and validates the underlying ruling. This one from Raymond B. Rob, excellent work. Every night, my dog and I watch. Man, shout out to Raymond and puppy Raymond in the house. A real good boy, no doubt about it. So shout out to him, real good boy. I'm sure you're going out for a W later. I didn't say it, but I'm sure you are. Good to see you, Raymond. Thanks for being a member for 4 months, and thanks for watching with your pup. We got Stalkers here with another one. Thank you, Stalker. Very generous of you today. Tasadaka is in the house. Says the Supreme Court issues a decision in the religious freedom case. Supreme Court strengthens religious freedom protections for workers. Sounds like good news over there. Newbie of Death says, cry boys cry at Nobi's insight. Cry boys cry at Nobi's insight. I don't know. Kara's here. What's up, Kara? Kara S., a membo for 10 months. Rob, we need to check in with Garrett and Marco Polo. I was thinking about Garrett and our friends at Marco Polo because I think that it turns out Hunter Biden might be CIA. I don't know if you guys saw that one. It makes total sense. If he's CIA, it makes total sense. All the dots connect. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that's why they shoved Joe in there, because Hunter is going to keep an eye on Joe. So the CIA got it. So that's what we're doing in Ukraine. That's why Hunter was in Ukraine. That's why we got the China stuff. Oh, I got it. Right. So I'm sure he can fill in the gaps on that one. Rob says, the only legislation that Congress can pass against the president is an impeachment, separation of powers. That's why they impeached Trump twice. They will try and impeach him again. Well, I don't think so. Apparently, the Supreme Court said that they can also pass legislation, just calling it an insurrectionist, and they're declaring an insurrection and saying Trump led it. And the consequence of that would be a political removal under the 14th Amendment that they're empowered to do. Then Trump could say that was unconstitutional and maybe declare the 14th Amendment unconstitutional. But the court just told them that they could do it. Lady Ice says, the thing about Russia terror attacks is that 2 weeks ago, our embassy issued alerts to U.S. citizens to avoid public events like dance halls. I know, I saw that. Hey, Mama Pillow says, George Kelly going to trial. Will you cover it? We'll see. We'll see. I know what's going on right now. We talked a little bit about it, and I watched some of it today, and I'm going to see how it's going, and we'll decide. Thanks for being a member, though, for 13 months. Tony, hey, says, hey, thanks for the red tie. You're a man of your word. I've been gifting for the last 2 days, trying to hit 2 of my friends. YouTube should allow you to gift somebody personally. Shaking my head. Amazing. So Tony, hey, of course, I was working today to get that red tie done, to make sure that it's there, and it looks good there. You're right. We needed it. It is here. Thank you for all the gifts. Sorry your friends are not getting it. It's kind of like a slot machine, right? Like you gift things, and then if you get it, you get it. If not, you're not. It just happens sporadically. So yeah, red tie, baby. We needed it. We needed it. You're right. There it is. L. Lambert. You got it, baby. Michael O'Grady. Yeah, K. Bean says red tie. Let's go. Ragby, Golden Gaming, red ties in the chat. Ray K. We love it. It's red tie. Much more powerful. You're right. We got Cowboy Rob says, it's like the Democrats are trying to start a civil war. I think it sounds like it. I think they might be okay with that. And also I think they want to bait people. They would love for something to happen so that they could castigate and smear the entire right. We got the red ties in the chat. John McGarvey is sharing this guy, the most interesting man in the world. Pinochet's helicopter tour says, please see Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution. And hey, it's the Munkets is bringing in Streak 9, Mary R, Oscar O, ASD, and Freedom Cast, all coming in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hopefully your friends were in on that one. We got this week from Linda H. What's up, Linda? What a nice dono. Extremely generous of you, Linda. Thank you for that. Says thank you, Robert. And Linda, thank you. Thank you for being a member. Very generous, very appreciated, and it'll go to good use. Thank you very much, Linda. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a membo. Hopefully we see you in the morning. This one is from John Allen. Says, hey, Rob, again, you provide us another great week of streams. Make it bearable to deal with this craziness and the crazies out there. As many others have said, you do a great job. And thank you. And thank you, John. Such a nice thing to say. Have a great weekend, my friend. And all the same to all the Watching the Watchers listeners. And John Allen saying, much love to you and much love back your way, John. Thank you for saying that, for being here, for being a great mod. DJ is here, says True Social is going public. Voting on it today, President Trump will be even richer. Good. That's good. He deserves it. Cowboy Rob says, I believe it would be defamation of character too, because he was never found guilty of anything. You mean if Congress just passed that legislation? Yeah, I don't know that Trump would have a claim for defamation there, but I think, that's my question is I don't know what the legislation would look like, but apparently they can do something. Lady Ice says, did you see the interaction between the two congressmen today about voting by our constituents instead of against big business? Interesting link. Thank you for that, Lady Ice. Crash says, is a resolution the same thing as legislation? SCOTUS clearly refers to appropriate legislation, not resolution. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we have a standard for this. So forget I said resolution, just call it legislation. I don't know. Does it 51%, 51 vote, right? 51%? I don't know. Good questions. Rob says, we did get to the question, at least in the mind of KJB, as they were quietly laughing about the Colorado attorney, said the 14th Amendment lists specific positions, but it doesn't list the president. Well, they asked about it in oral arguments, but I don't think it made it into the opinion. So in the opinion, did they say whether it applies to the president? I think they just said that Congress gets to decide. So I don't think, I think that it does apply to the president, but Congress makes that decision. But in the opinion, I don't think that they said that like the president is an office holder or the president is not an office holder. Like they didn't get into that whole line of questions. Hey, Knox says, Jeff Childers also fleshed out that Hunter is CIA. I saw a post about this too from Marco Polo today. Hunter was telling Hallie Biden something about the CIA. And he knew a lot about the CIA. So it makes sense that, they would host a degenerate to take care of their puppet president. Carrie G says, I hope Trump drops the money in pennies. Yeah, just bring a couple of dump trucks up there. Rob says, the court told them what the Constitution said. The court didn't just give them the right to do it. It's in the Constitution that Congress must pass legislation. Impeachment is the legislation. I don't know. That's not what the court just told us, as far as I know. Tony Hay says, Tony Hay, 5 more membos. Johnny B, Ramon F, Joe B, Margaret S, and the big guy's crackhead son. That's Hunter. All joining us, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay. And welcome to the big guy's crackhead son. It's going to be fun to have you in the community. Looking forward to that one. All right, let's say hello to our friends on X and see who is joining us over there before we wrap it up and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our after party. Yikes. Okay, there's some serious Russia stuff going on. Yeah, not good. All right, let's see who's here on the X. In the house, it's Meme Friday from Palmy No. It's Meme Friday from Palmy No. I don't know what's happening on YouTube, but over here, it's Meme Friday, says Paul Meme No. Paul Meme No in the house. What's up, Luke? Salty Sarge, Sandra D. We got some comments here. Sandra says, Jimmy Kimmel's vile. Not even funny. People will be eating their words. Trump is the most resilient person, 75, still smashing. Alfred says, all this is really starting to stress me out. It appears that I might have to do business with Cheech and Chong. Oh, gosh. Like what? What? Well, they have ads on Twitter. Yeah, I think. Do they still have ads on Twitter? Salty Sarge says, Democrats are so miserable in their own lives. Their only enjoyment is from others' misery. Definitely Schadenfreude personified. It's misery enjoys company. Good comment. Malzino says, May 21st, McCarthy seat will be filled. June 11th opens up in Ohio. Ken Bucks will be filled. All are safe red. I sure hope so. Luke Johnson said, it's a guarantee the GOP will welcome Trump's asset seizure, right? Republicans need to speak out about this, demand the freezing of his bank accounts, stop it, and the putting the lien on properties, taking rents, it all adds up to victory. Danny says the Dems have painted themselves into a corner. Fred says, how do I get my name in green? And I don't know how you get your name in green. And Paul, me know, in the house on X. Very nice to see everybody on X. Of course, we stream there. We post our stuff over there at Rob Govea, ESQ. We'd love to have you follow us and follow other watchers out there in the wild on the X platform. But my friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we'll have our after party. We'll also be there tomorrow for our members only stream. Same with our YouTube members. We'll see you on Saturday tomorrow, YouTube friends. Check out robertgovea.com if you want to sign up for our newsletter. And of course you do, because that way you get all of our amazing reports delivered to your inbox every single day. Also, our PDFs are over there, watcherlodge.com, link down in the description. This weekend, if you're looking for something to do, something to watch Living with Meaning and Purpose. It's got a bunch of packed with tools and PDFs and workbooks that you can use to flesh out your meaning and your purpose. And it's taught by my mama, and it's amazing. So check it out, watcherlodge.com. That, my friends, is it for us on the day. Before we wrap it up, I want to say thanks to the mods and the meme smiths. Thank you to Vienticus Prime, our friend K-Bean, Just Cause in the house, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me, modding down the fort in the house for us. And shout out to Sleepy Dog Lee, Nathan NA10, and Geegum Geegum as our meme smiths. That, my friends, is it for us on the day. Now, we are going to come back here on Monday, but we're going to pause for the weekend, get outside, get some fresh air, unplug from the craziness of the world so that we can recharge our energy tanks, restore our batteries, and rest so that when we come back on Monday and next week, we are restored, revved up, and ready to go. And when we come back on Monday, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night and a beautiful weekend, my friends. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.